This week we start a new series on 2 Corinthians. We've put the 5 weeks of Job behind us. And so for this week and the next 4, we'll read a series of readings from 2 Corinthians. We'll explore consolation and forgiveness and treasure in clay jars and walk by faith, not sight. And finally, generosity. Now, I see a bit of a progression in those topics. First, without consolation or comfort, we're not really able to offer or receive forgiveness. Forgiveness offered and received will help us see the treasure that is in the clay jars of us and of others. That treasure will help us to walk by faith. And once we're able to walk by faith, then we can be generous. So over the next 5 weeks, we will journey through that progression. But in the meantime, let's look at consolation. The social science commentary on letters to Paul has this to say about consolation. Consolation is the alleviation of some person's grief, sense of loss, or trouble. While God alleviates Paul's grief, Paul sees the purpose of this divine consolation to enable him to console other Jesus group members so afflicted. Consoling others thus serves as a sort of group adhesive, facilitating Jesus group bonding. Now, one of the things that's amazed me about Holy Cross over the years is the ability of this community to come together to help one another in those difficult moments in life. When someone's grieving, when someone's experienced a loss, when somebody's in trouble, this community pulls together, pitches in, helps. Now, I'm sure that there are times that we haven't been perfect in that, and there have been times that we probably haven't met the needs of another at all. I do know, though, that our inability to meet everyone's needs would not come from a lack of understanding as to how important this ministry is, how fundamental it is to our calling as Holy Cross to be people who offer consolation and comfort. It might be that we just didn't know how to support someone. And in the midst of consoling and comforting others, we have come together in ways that we wouldn't otherwise. And as the commentary says, it really is an experience that bonds us together. Now, if there's one thing that I've seen over the last few months is our consolation has changed. How we comfort one another is different now than it was before the pandemic began. Everything has changed. From how we buy groceries to how we do church to how we show our support for one another. There is so much that has changed. And I actually hope that one area has changed in our lives. I hope that our spiritual lives have become deeper. My hope is that our prayer lives have become more rich. This again from the social science commentary on the letters of Paul. Just as people pray to other people to have effect, so by analogy, people pray to God to have effect. The behavior we call prayer is in fact a socially meaningful, symbolic act of communication. This communication is invariably directed to persons perceived as somehow supporting, maintaining, and controlling the order of existence of the one praying. And the one praying prays in order to have some intended effect. As we haven't been able to be together physically to comfort and console one another, I hope that we've prayed more for one another. I hope that we've asked God more to alleviate the burdens and concerns of others. And at times it still does hurt to be physically distant from each other. And that's where prayer brings us back full circle. Prayer is how we hear the words of caring from God, the words of consolation for our souls, how we express to God our caring and our consolation that we wish others could receive. It allows us to be spiritually present when we can't be physically present in the lives of one another. This from 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 7. Our hope for you is unshaken. For we know that as you share in our sufferings, so also you share in our consolation. As we journey through 2 Corinthians and this time of pandemic, may we do so in prayer, to find comfort, to find consolation for ourselves and for others. Amen.